Man, we need you to stop right there. Identification, now.
I'm here for school pickup. Is there a problem?
You're avoiding the request. We need proof of status. Step aside from the pickup area. We'll sort this out. Everyone has a story. Credentials on you, or we proceed with verification.
I'm not refusing. I'm asking you to verify with the school.
Let's not make this difficult.
I'm a teacher here. My ID is our children's desk.
Step aside from the pickup area. We'll sort this out.
Lincoln Elementary School's main hallway was packed when it happened. Tuesday afternoon, 3:15 p.m. The kind of controlled chaos that happens when 400 elementary students get dismissed at once. Backpacks scraping against walls, sneakers squeaking on linoleum, parents navigating the crowd toward their kids' classrooms. Lieutenant Royce Phelan had stopped by to pick up her daughter Maya from 3rd grade after finishing an early shift. Still in her civilian clothes, dark jeans, a simple sweater, her off-duty badge clipped inside her purse. She taught the school's DARE program once a month and knew most of the staff by name. She was heading down the 2nd grade hallway toward her daughter's classroom when 3 ICE agents materialized from the administrative wing. Their body cameras were rolling, so recording what would become the most expensive school pickup in federal history. Before we go any further, let me ask, where are you watching from? And if this is your first time here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Stories like this rarely get told unless someone speaks up. Your support helps these videos reach the people who need to see what's really happening out there. Agent Ledger Holt led the approach. His partners, Agents Thorne and Calhoun, flanking wide like they were corralling livestock. Phelan saw them coming, read the tactical spacing, the hands hovering near duty belts, the body language of men who'd already decided she was a problem. Her cop brain cataloged it all in the second it took them to close the distance. Federal agents, immigration and customs enforcement patches visible on their tactical vests, they looking at her like she was prey instead of a fellow law enforcement officer who worked in this building. She knew where this was going before Holt opened his mouth. She'd heard the stories, seen the reports, knew that ICE had been conducting sweeps at sensitive locations, despite the policies that supposedly protected schools. She just never imagined they'd target her. Here, in the hallway where she'd taught kids about constitutional rights and community policing, where her daughter's artwork hung on bulletin boards, where she was known, trusted, part of the fabric of the school community. Afternoon, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. We're conducting a verification operation at this location. Phelan stopped walking, her mind already racing through the legal and tactical implications. Around them, the hallway traffic was beginning to notice. Parents slowing their pace, watching with concern. A teacher, Ms. Rodriguez from 4th grade, had paused in her doorway. The school security guard, old Mr. Patterson, who'd known Phelan for 5 years, was moving closer with confusion written on his face. "Officers, I'm Lieutenant Royce Phelan, Metro Police Department. I'm here picking up my daughter. I also serve as one of the SRO liaisons for this school. Is there something I can help you with?" Holt's expression didn't change. If anything, his stance became more aggressive, his presence more intimidating in the narrow hallway crowded with children and parents. "We're going to need to see some identification. Documentation proving your legal status in this country." The words hung in the fluorescent-lit hallway like an accusation. Around them, but parents were stopping now, phones coming out, the ambient noise of dismissal time fading as people recognized that something wrong was unfolding. Phelan felt her training kick in. Stay calm, stay professional, document everything. But underneath that training was something else. The dawning realization that her badge, her service, her relationship with this school, none of it mattered to these 3 federal agents who'd already decided what she was based on the color of her skin. "My credentials are in my vehicle," she said evenly, "along with my service weapon and my Metro PD identification. I can retrieve them if—" "Don't move toward any vehicle. Don't reach for anything. You're being detained for verification." Behind Holt, children were starting to stare. Maya's best friend Sophia walked past with her mother, in both of them looking confused and frightened. Mr. Patterson had his radio out, probably calling the principal, and Phelan understood with sickening clarity that she was about to be arrested. In her daughter's school. In front of students she'd taught. By federal agents who'd profiled her in a hallway, she walked every month as a police officer and parent. The most expensive school pickup in federal history was about to get a whole lot more expensive. And somewhere in a 3rd grade classroom, her daughter was waiting for a mother who wasn't going to make it to pick up on time. Lincoln Elementary School at 3:15 p.m. was organized chaos, the kind of controlled madness that happened when 400 children between the ages of 5 and 11 got released simultaneously into hallways designed for half that number. Backpacks knocked into walls, sneakers squeaked on freshly waxed linoleum, and the collective noise of excited children created a wall of sound that made conversation nearly impossible. Lieutenant Royce Phelan navigated the crowd with the ease of someone who'd done this dozens of times. She knew to stay to the right, to move with the flow, to smile at the teachers managing dismissal duty. She'd been coming to Lincoln for 5 years, first as Maya's parent, then as one of the SRO liaisons who taught DARE once a month and helped with active shooter drills nobody wanted to think about, but everyone had to prepare for. She was 10 feet from the third-grade wing, already looking for Maya's dark curls in the crowd, when she felt the shift in energy behind her. The 3 men in tactical vests moved through the hallway like sharks through a school of fish. But parents instinctively pulled their children closer. Teachers stopped mid-conversation. The ambient noise didn't exactly stop, but it changed, became wary, uncertain. ICE vests, unmistakable even from a distance. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, operating inside an elementary school during dismissal time, moving with purpose toward something or someone specific. Moving toward her. Phelan's cop instincts fired before her conscious mind caught up. She cataloged details automatically. 3 agents, tactical formation, body cameras active, hands near duty belts. Not responding to an emergency, their movements were too controlled, too deliberate. This was a planned operation, and she was the target. She stopped walking, letting the crowd flow around her, and turned to face them. Agent Ledger Holt reached her first, and his partners spreading wide to cut off any escape route. The tactical spacing was textbook, the same formation Phelan had used hundreds of times for high-risk encounters. They were treating her like a dangerous suspect in a hallway full of children. "Ma'am, Immigration and Customs Enforcement." Holt's voice carried authority and zero warmth. "We need to see your identification and documentation." Around them, the hallway was going quiet. Parents were stopping, watching, phones already coming out. A teacher Phelan recognized, Ms. Rodriguez from 4th grade, had frozen in her doorway, her expression shifting from confusion to alarm. And somewhere down the hall, in Mrs. Chen's 3rd-grade classroom, Maya Phelan was probably gathering her backpack, looking forward to going home with her mom. The mom who was about to be arrested by federal agents who'd decided she didn't belong in her own daughter's school. Phelan's hands stayed visible, positioned away from her body in the universal language of non-threat. 11 years as a Metro PD officer, the last 4 as a lieutenant, and every second of that training was screaming at her to assess, adapt, survive. Assessment. 3 ICE agents in a modified triangle formation. Holt at point, maybe 6 feet away. Thorne positioned left near the water fountain, cutting off retreat toward the main entrance. Calhoun right, blocking access to the administrative wing. Perfect tactical spacing for a high-risk apprehension. She'd used this exact formation last month when serving a felony warrant. You positioned your team in a triangle because it provided overlapping coverage. Filtered sauveries. He eliminated blind spots and prevented the suspect from attacking one officer without exposing themselves to the others. It was the geometry of controlled violence, and these agents were deploying it against an off-duty cop picking up her daughter. "Officers, I'm Lieutenant Royce Phelan, Metro Police Department." She kept her voice level, professional, the same tone she used when de-escalating situations. "I'm here as a parent, picking up my daughter. I also serve as an SRO liaison for this school. Is there something I can help you with?" Holt's expression didn't soften. "We're conducting a verification sweep. We need to see documentation proving your legal status." Phelan's cop brain cataloged the terminology. Verification sweep, not immigration check. Legal status, not citizenship. Language chosen carefully to sound official while remaining vague about actual legal authority. "My identification is in my vehicle in the parking lot," Phelan said, "along with my badge and service credentials. I'm happy to retrieve them if—" "Don't move toward any vehicle." Thorne's hand dropped to his duty belt, resting on his radio. The message was clear. One wrong move, and this escalates. The tactical spacing shifted. Holt took a half step forward. Calhoun adjusted his angle. They were herding her, controlling her movement, treating her like she might flee or fight, despite being surrounded by elementary school students. Around them, so the crowd had thinned, but the watchers had multiplied. Parents clustered in doorways, phones out, recording. Mr. Patterson, the security guard, was on his radio calling someone, probably Principal Martinez. Teachers had stopped dismissal procedures, keeping students in classrooms rather than releasing them into a hallway where federal agents were conducting an operation. Agent Holt, Phelan used his name deliberately, making sure the body cameras caught it. I need you to articulate reasonable suspicion for this stop. What specific facts led you to approach me? His jaw tightened. Not used to being questioned, especially not by someone who knew the law well enough to cite the standards he was supposed to be following. We have intelligence about undocumented individuals at this location. This is an elementary school. Oh, what intelligence? That's operational information. I'm a police lieutenant. I work with this school. I know every administrator, half the teachers, and most of the staff. So I'm asking again, what specific intelligence justified approaching me specifically in this hallway? Silence. Because there was no intelligence. There was just profiling, just agents who'd seen a black woman in a school hallway and decided she needed papers checked. Phelan looked at each agent in turn, then directly at Holt's body camera. For the record, I'm Lieutenant Royce Phelan, Metro PD, badge 3847. I'm being detained without reasonable suspicion at Lincoln Elementary School during student dismissal. This is a Fourth Amendment violation. Holt's hand moved to his handcuffs. Turn around. So you're being detained for verification. Wait. Phelan raised her hands slowly, palms out, making sure every camera caught the non-threatening gesture. You want identification? My name is Lieutenant Royce Phelan. Badge number 3847. Metro Police Department, West Division. Call my precinct. Call my captain. Call the school principal who's probably watching this on security cameras right now. She pulled her wallet from her purse. Movements deliberate and visible. Arizona driver's license, valid and current. Credit cards in her name. Her Metro PD union card with her photo and badge number clearly visible. Holt took the wallet, examined the license with an expression that suggested he'd already decided it wouldn't matter what it said. This doesn't prove legal status. It's a valid state-issued driver's license. And I'm Lieutenant Royce Phelan. I was born at Phoenix General Hospital. I'm a natural-born United States citizen. Then you'll have documentation. Birth certificate, passport, naturalization certificate. I don't carry my birth certificate to school pickup, Agent Holt. And I don't need naturalization papers because I was born here. Phoenix, Arizona, United States. I've lived in this city my entire life. Everyone claims to be born here when we stop them. Everyone you stop, or everyone who looks like me? Phelan let the question hang in the fluorescent-lit hallway. Because I notice you didn't stop the white parents who just walked past. Didn't stop Mr. Patterson, the security guard. Just me. So let's talk about this intelligence that led you to single out a black woman in a school hallway while ignoring everyone else. Around them, the watching parents murmured. Someone said loudly enough to be heard, "She's a cop! She teaches here!" Another voice. "This is wrong. She's Maya Phelan's mom." Holt pocketed her wallet. "We'll verify your story downtown." My story? Phelan's voice remained calm, but an edge had entered it. I'm not telling you a story. I'm telling you facts. I'm a police lieutenant. My badge number is 3847. My captain is Robert Chen, West Division. My phone number is in that wallet you're holding. Any one of those can verify my identity in under 2 minutes. She pulled out her Metro PD union card, held it up for the cameras. This is my FOP Lodge membership. This is my proof of employment. This is documentation that I'm a sworn law enforcement officer in this city. What more do you need? Proof of citizenship. Based on what legal authority? You're conducting an immigration check on a U.S. citizen, a police officer in a school hallway. You have no probable cause, no reasonable suspicion, nothing but the color of my skin. Thorne moved closer, his handcuffs now visible in his hand. Ma'am, you're making this harder than it needs to be. No, you're making it hard by refusing to verify information that's readily available. I've given you my name, my badge number, my employment. You could confirm all of it with one phone call, but you won't, because this isn't about verification. This is about profiling. Down the hall, a door opened. Principal Martinez appeared, her face a mixture of shock and fury. "Officers, what is going on?" "Lieutenant Phelan is one of our parent volunteers and an SRO liaison. She has security clearance to be in this building." Holt didn't even look at her. "Oh, ma'am, federal operation. Please step back." "I'm calling the superintendent. I'm calling—" "You're interfering with a federal immigration enforcement action. Step back or be detained." The threat silenced Martinez, but her phone was already out, probably calling everyone she could think of who might stop this. Phelan looked at Holt's body camera one more time. "I'm Lieutenant Royce Phelan. I'm being illegally detained in my daughter's school. And you're about to arrest a cop in front of children because you decided a black woman doesn't belong here. If this story is resonating with you, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what happens next." "Agent Holt," Phelan's voice carried down the hallway, clear and deliberate for every recording device, every witness, every camera. "I'm going to explain this once as a fellow law enforcement officer. The Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution protects citizens from unreasonable searches and seizures. Terry v. Ohio established that law enforcement may conduct brief investigative stops only with reasonable suspicion based on specific and articulable facts. You have provided no such facts." Holt stepped forward, invading her personal space in the narrow hallway. "Ma'am, final warning?" "Furthermore," Phelan continued, not backing down despite 3 federal agents surrounding her, "the Supreme Court held in United States v. Brignoni-Ponce that immigration stops must be based on more than ethnic appearance. You stopped me, a police lieutenant in her daughter's school, because I'm black. That's not reasonable suspicion. That's racial profiling. Oh, and it violates the Fourth Amendment, regardless of the badge you're wearing." The crowd of parents and teachers had grown. Maybe 30 people now, phones out, recording from multiple angles. Phelan could see Ms. Rodriguez filming from her classroom doorway. Mr. Patterson had positioned himself where he could capture the full scene on his phone. "I'm invoking my Fourth Amendment rights. I'm invoking my Fifth Amendment rights. I do not consent to this detention. I do not consent to any search. I am clearly articulating for your body cameras and these civilian witnesses that I'm a United States citizen, a police lieutenant with Metro PD, and I'm being illegally detained without reasonable suspicion at my daughter's elementary school." Calhoun moved in from her left, handcuffs already out. "You're being detained for verification of legal status. Resistance will result in additional charges." "I'm not resisting. I'm asserting my constitutional rights. Every law enforcement officer in this country knows the difference between the two. You're choosing to conflate them because you've already decided who I am based on how I look." Thorne grabbed her left arm, twisting it behind her back. Phelan didn't fight. Fighting would give them the excuse they wanted. But she didn't help either. Her body went completely limp, forcing the agent to support her full weight. For the record, her voice remained steady despite the pain shooting through her shoulder. "I'm being physically restrained at 3:27 p.m. in the main hallway of Lincoln Elementary School. I have not threatened anyone. I have not attempted to flee. And I have identified myself as a police officer and offered to verify my credentials. I'm being arrested anyway because 3 federal agents decided a black woman in a school doesn't belong here." A child's voice cut through the tension. "Mommy, why are those men hurting Miss Phelan?" The question came from somewhere in the crowd, innocent and damning. A teacher, Phelan recognized her as Mrs. Chen from 3rd grade, called out, "She teaches our DARE program. She's a police officer. This is her daughter's school." Holt's voice was ice. "Everyone step back. This is a federal operation. Anyone interfering will be detained." But the phones kept recording. The witnesses kept watching. And Lieutenant Royce Phelan kept narrating every violation for the evidence that would eventually destroy these agents' careers. Handcuffs applied at 3:28 p.m. Excessive force. No resistance offered. No crime committed. Unlawful arrest in progress. The handcuffs closed around Phelan's wrists with a metallic click that echoed in the suddenly quiet hallway. Too tight, deliberately so, the metal biting into her skin hard enough that she knew there would be bruising. She'd cuffed hundreds of people in her career, and she knew the difference between secure restraint and punitive pain. This was punitive. "I'm not resisting," she announced clearly, her voice carrying to every phone, every witness, every child who shouldn't be seeing this. "I'm not fighting. I'm exercising passive non-compliance with an unlawful arrest." Thorne grabbed her right arm, Calhoun her left. They tried to walk her toward the exit, but Phelan let every muscle go slack. Dead weight. All 140 pounds of her became a burden they had to drag through a hallway full of elementary school students. "Ma'am, you need to walk. I'm being unlawfully arrested in my daughter's school. I'm not going to assist in my own constitutional violation. You want to detain a police officer illegally in front of children? You're going to have to physically carry me." It was a technique she'd seen in civil rights footage, in protest videos, in training materials about nonviolent resistance. She'd never imagined using it herself, in her daughter's school, against federal agents who were supposed to be on the same side of justice. They dragged her, her feet scraping against the linoleum as children watched with wide, frightened eyes. Phelan kept her voice level, narrating violations for the recording devices. "I'm being dragged through Lincoln Elementary School at 3:29 p.m. My shoulder is being wrenched. The handcuffs are cutting circulation. This is excessive force applied to a non-resistant subject who has identified herself as a law enforcement officer." A woman's voice, Brooks Nash, she'd learn later, a parent picking up her son from second grade, cut through the chaos. "This is insane. She's a cop. She teaches here. Why are you doing this to her?" A man, parent she didn't recognize, stepped forward. "Hey, this is wrong. She's shown you her ID, told you who she is." "Sir, step back or you'll be detained too." Holt's threat was sharp enough to stop the intervention, but not enough to stop the recording. They reached the main entrance, the double doors that led to the parking lot. Through the glass, Phelan could see their black SUV parked in the fire lane, engine running. The same vehicle that had probably been conducting surveillance on the school, looking for targets. "Watch your head." Calhoun shoved her through the doorway. Not gentle, not caring about the shoulder he'd already injured. Phelan stumbled, but couldn't catch herself with her hands cuffed behind her back. She went down hard on the concrete steps, her knee taking the impact. The crowd behind her gasped. Someone screamed. More phones captured the moment a police lieutenant was thrown down school steps by federal agents. Blood seeped through her torn jeans where her knee had split open. More evidence to add to the growing list. They hauled her up, dragged her to the SUV. The rear door opened, modified for prisoner transport, no interior handles, to partition separating front from back. The cage where they put people they'd decided were criminals. "It's 3:32 p.m., Phelan said, looking directly at Holt's body camera. "Lieutenant Royce Phelan, Metro PD badge 3847. Unlawfully arrested at Lincoln Elementary School. Assaulted. Transported against my will. I want every badge number, every name, every frame of body camera footage preserved for the federal lawsuit I will file." The door slammed shut. Through the tinted windows, she could see the crowd of parents and teachers, could see Mr. Patterson with his phone still up, recording everything. And somewhere in that building, in Mrs. Chen's classroom, her daughter Maya was probably wondering why her mom was late for pickup. The Federal Detention Center holding cell was 10 feet by 10 feet of institutional despair. Concrete block walls painted the kind of beige that made everything look sick. A metal bench bolted to the floor, a toilet in the corner with no privacy and no dignity. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, with a frequency calculated to cause headaches. The air was stale, recycled through vents too small to actually circulate anything breathable. This was the machinery. The processing center where constitutional rights died and humans became case numbers, where the presumption of innocence got ground into bureaucratic procedure. They'd removed her handcuffs during intake, photographed her like she was evidence instead of a person, fingerprinted her with the detached efficiency of people who'd stopped seeing detainees as human. Nobody made eye contact. Nobody answered questions. She was a unit moving through their system. Personal effects? The intake officer, Ramirez, her nameplate read, pointed to a plastic bin. Phone, wallet, jewelry, belt, shoes. Phelan handed over her watch, the one her father had given her when she made lieutenant. Her wedding ring. Her phone with 47 missed calls, probably from her precinct, her captain, her wife, wondering where she was and why Maya hadn't been picked up. "I want to make a phone call. I'm entitled after processing." "When is that?" "When we verify your status." "I'm a police lieutenant. You can verify my status with one phone call to Metro PD. You're deliberately prolonging this detention to punish me for asserting my rights." Ramirez's expression didn't change. Just following orders. Just doing her job. The same excuse that had echoed through history whenever functionaries participated in injustice. Cell 8. If the door buzzed open electronically, the space smelled like industrial cleaner fighting a losing battle against years of fear and desperation. Phelan stepped inside, heard the lock engage behind her with a finality that made her stomach drop. She sat on the metal bench, cold despite the desert heat outside, and let the reality settle. She was in custody. An 11-year police veteran with an unblemished record, detained like a criminal, experiencing the system from the inside in a way no academy training had prepared her for. The irony was suffocating. How many people had she arrested over 11 years? How many suspects had she processed through cells exactly like this one, telling them it's procedure, while they protested their innocence? How many times had she trusted the system to sort the guilty from the innocent? And now she was on the other side, and the system felt less like justice and more like a meat grinder that didn't care about truth. The clock visible through the small window in her cell door read 4:47 p.m., over an hour in custody. Her daughter had been picked up by her wife Carmen by now. Principal Martinez would have called her immediately. Carmen would be terrified, furious, making calls to every person she could think of who might help. But Phelan had disappeared into federal processing, deliberately vague about location, deliberately isolated from communication, just like thousands of others who'd been detained based on demographic profiles instead of facts. The difference was she knew the law. She had resources. She had a union, colleagues, a platform. Most people detained like this had none of those advantages. And they just disappeared into the machinery and came out weeks or months later, damaged by a system that had presumed them guilty. Phelan pulled a pen from her sock, somehow missed during intake, and started writing on her palm. Times, names, badge numbers, every detail of her detention documented in her own hand. When this was over, this evidence would be airtight. The lawsuit would be devastating. And maybe, just maybe, the next person profiled wouldn't have to sit in a cell wondering if anyone knew where they were. 3 hours, she calculated. They'd keep her 3 hours before someone with authority acknowledged the magnitude of this mistake. 3 hours of her life stolen by agents who decided her skin color was probable cause. She settled in to wait, and to document, and to prepare for the fight that would cost them everything. Anselm Croft had supervised ICE detention operations for 9 years, long enough to know when a situation was about to detonate in his face. The call from Metro PD Internal Affairs at 5:14 p.m. lit up every warning system in his head. Anselm, we have a problem. Lieutenant Royce Phelan didn't pick up her daughter from school this afternoon. Her wife says she's not answering her phone. And we have viral video of ICE agents arresting someone who looks exactly like her at Lincoln Elementary. Croft's blood went cold. ICE agents? Under what authority? That's what we're asking you. He pulled up the afternoon operations log. Sensitive location sweep. Authorized by Agent Ledger Holt. Intelligence-based verification targeting individuals at educational facilities. Standard language hiding what was probably a fishing expedition. Send except Holt had arrested a Metro PD lieutenant. At a school. During pickup. In front of children and parents with phones. Croft was moving before his conscious mind caught up. Down 3 flights. Through security. Into intake. Ramirez was at her desk, looking more nervous than usual. The subject from the school. Where is she? Cell 8. Won't provide documentation beyond a driver's license. Claims she's a police lieutenant. Show me the intake photo. Ramirez pulled it up on her screen. Black woman, late 30s, athletic build, split knee bleeding through torn jeans, expression of controlled fury that somehow made her look more authoritative. And unmistakably, Lieutenant Royce Phelan, whose face Croft had seen in interagency cooperation briefings. Jesus Christ, his hands were shaking. That is Lieutenant Phelan. Yet you have a Metro PD lieutenant in a holding cell. Where are her personal effects? Locker 47. Croft accessed it with his supervisor credentials. Phone showing 89 missed calls. Wallet with valid Arizona driver's license. Metro PD union card. FOP membership. Business cards reading Lieutenant Royce Phelan, Metro Police Department. They'd arrested a cop. At her daughter's school. During pickup. With body cameras recording. With civilian witnesses filming. This wasn't just a mistake. This was a catastrophe that would make national news and destroy careers. He grabbed the evidence bag and ran to cell 8. Through the window, he saw Phelan sitting calmly on the bench, writing on her palm with a pen they'd missed, documenting everything. He keyed the door open. Phelan looked up, unsurprised, her expression cold assessment. "Lieutenant Phelan, I'm Supervisor Anselm Croft. There's been a terrible mistake. I sincerely apologize." "Save it." Phelan stood slowly, deliberately. "I don't want your apologies. I want documentation. Every moment of my unlawful detention preserved in official logs. Every agent's name and badge number. Every frame of body camera footage. All of it preserved as evidence. Of course, you'll preserve evidence for my federal lawsuit. I'm suing your agency, those 3 agents personally, and every supervisor who created the environment where profiling at elementary schools is considered acceptable operation." Croft felt sweat forming despite the air conditioning. "Lieutenant, I understand you're upset." "Upset?" Phelan's voice was ice wrapped in steel. "I'm documenting. I spent 3 hours in that cell experiencing what your agency does to people every day. The difference is I have resources to fight back. Most people you profile don't. That ends now." She walked past him, out of the cell, posture straight, despite 3 hours of detention and a bleeding knee. "My personal effects. My vehicle, which you towed from a school parking lot, and immediate transportation back to Lincoln Elementary, where you illegally arrested me in front of my daughter's classmates. Will cooperate fully. You'll cooperate with my attorney, Linnea Stallard. Civil rights litigation. She's going to destroy your agency, and I'm going to help her do it. And Supervisor Croft? I want the names of every agent involved, every supervisor who authorized a sweep at a school, you and every person in your chain of command who thought profiling parents at elementary schools was acceptable law enforcement." She collected her belongings, checked her phone, 89 missed calls, text messages from Carmen ranging from worried to terrified to furious. The viral video from the school already had 2 million views. Phelan walked out of the facility with the controlled fury of someone who'd just experienced the machinery of injustice from the inside and now had both the knowledge and the platform to dismantle it. Croft watched her go and started updating his resume. This was going to be everywhere by morning. The trial began 16 months later, though calling it a trial suggested some uncertainty about the outcome. By the time attorney Linnea Stallard finished her opening statement, the defense team from the Department of Justice looked like they regretted not settling for the initial demand. Stallard was 47, a civil rights litigation specialist who'd built her career dismantling qualified immunity defenses. She stood before the jury, 7 women, 5 men, diverse in age and background, and delivered a statement that would be studied in law schools. "Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant Royce Phelan went to pick up her daughter from school. She was a parent, a teacher, a police officer who worked with that school. And 3 ICE agents decided she looked illegal. Not because she'd committed a crime, not because they had intelligence, but because she was black. And in their experience, black women at elementary schools must be suspects." She clicked a remote. So the monitors showed body camera footage from Agent Holt's perspective. Timestamp, 3:15:33 p.m. Watch. You'll see Lieutenant Phelan in a school hallway. Parent volunteers around her, children everywhere. Now watch the agents. They're not checking everyone. They singled out Lieutenant Phelan before speaking to her. Why? The footage showed the approach, the triangle formation, the escalation. Phelan identifying herself, offering badge numbers, explaining constitutional law while Holt reached for handcuffs. All in a hallway full of elementary school children. 3 jurors were taking notes. Others watched with expressions of disgust. The civilian footage came next, filmed by Brooks Nash from the main entrance. Raw, unedited, capturing everything. The crowd's protests, Phelan's calm narration. At the moment she went limp, and they dragged her past crying children. The blood on her knee when they threw her down the steps. 2 jurors were crying. The defense attorney tried damage control. He questioned the agents about training, protocols, lack of intent. He emphasized the brief detention, only 3 hours, and Phelan's release without charges. Then Stallard called Agent Holt to the stand. Agent Holt, you testified you had intelligence about undocumented individuals at Lincoln Elementary. What was that intelligence? Reports of suspicious individuals at that location. Suspicious how? Specifically? individuals who appeared out of place. What made Lieutenant Phelan, a police officer who taught at that school, appear out of place? Silence. The white parents walking past you. Did you stop them? No. The white teachers? The white staff. Did you stop them? No. But you stopped Lieutenant Phelan, a black woman. What specific facts justified that? We were following protocols. Show me the protocol for profiling parents at elementary schools. Show me the training that says arrest cops in front of children. Show me anything justifying what you did. He couldn't. The jury watched him fail, watched him try to articulate reasoning that didn't exist. Deliberation. 8 hours. Verdict? Unanimous. Constitutional violation. Civil rights deprivation. Excessive force. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. Damages. $12.6 million. The courtroom erupted. Phelan sat quietly, vindicated, thinking about her daughter who'd watched those viral videos and asked why the men had hurt Mommy. The settlement arrived 10 weeks later. $12.6 million. And the largest civil rights judgment in the district's history. After attorney fees, Phelan had enough to retire comfortably and never work another shift. She reported for duty at Metro PD the next morning in full uniform. But everything had changed. Agent Ledger Holt resigned before formal discipline, his federal career over. Agents Thorne and Calhoun were demoted to desk assignments pending review. Supervisor Anselm Croft took early retirement. Homeland Security announced reforms. No more enforcement at sensitive locations without supervisor approval, mandatory constitutional training, body camera preservation requirements, quarterly civil rights audits. The Phelan case became the example of what happened when profiling replaced probable cause. But policy wasn't enough. Real change required resources for people who couldn't fight back. Phelan created the Civil Rights Defense Initiative with $10 million of her settlement. The nonprofit provided free legal representation for individuals detained without reasonable suspicion. It trained communities on constitutional rights. It tracked profiling patterns and brought lawsuits relentlessly against agencies that violated protections. First year, 284 clients represented, 201 cases won, $8.4 million in additional settlements, funding expansion. 4 attorneys grew to 23, 1 office to 12, regional impact to national influence. Lieutenant Phelan stayed on the force, but changed how she wore the badge. Every stop she made, she remembered the cell. Every detention, she thought about the children who'd watched their teacher get arrested. She became the officer who changed ICE, though she'd correct people. See, I didn't change ICE, I exposed them. Real change comes from pressure, consequences, refusing to accept profiling as normal. 4 years later, Captain Phelan implemented department-wide constitutional policing training. She created accountability for officers who profiled. She built bridges with communities that had learned to fear badges. The school video still circulated. Grainy footage of a police lieutenant dragged through a hallway full of children. It became a symbol, a reminder that badges didn't protect you from racism. On the anniversary, Phelan returned to Lincoln Elementary for Maya's parent-teacher conference. Same hallways, same afternoon chaos. She walked through without incident, greeted by teachers and parents who remembered, who'd witnessed, who'd recorded. Progress wasn't one dramatic verdict. It was making it possible for the next black parent to pick up their child without 3 agents deciding they looked illegal. That day hadn't fully arrived. But because of what happened in that hallway, because of the $12.6 million judgment, because of the initiative and thousands of cases it supported, that day was closer. Lieutenant, now Captain, Royce Phelan had paid the price for systemic bias. She was making sure the system paid everything,